All right, so from today, we're going to be working 37 through 44. Now, 37 through 40, I'm asking you to find the missing side. Make sure you guys read the instructions, okay? Find the missing side, round to the nearest tenth, right? So my answer is going to be in decimals, rounded to 1 decimal place, okay? So let's take a look at number 37. Now, I have 43 degrees, so I'm going to label my sides. The two sides that I have, I'm going to label them as hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Remember, hypotenuse is the one side that is farthest away from the 90 degrees. This case, I don't see anything about the hypotenuse. I see that 15 is the opposite and x is the adjacent. Remember, opposite from the angle given, the 43 degrees, opposite means far away, adjacent means close to. So O and A, I'm going to remember the acronym TOA. That means that tangent of 43 degrees. Every time tangent, sine, cosine, whichever one we're doing, of the degree. So tangent of 43 equals opposite over adjacent. So 15 over x. It would be easy if the x was on top, but it is not. So what I'm going to do, let me make this two fractions. Let me flip my fractions, both of them. 1 over tangent of 43 is equal to x over 15. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by 15. Because that way those 15s cancel out. On the left, 15 times 1. So on the top, I'm going to have 15. At the bottom, I have tangent of 43 is equal to x. 15 over, right? A fraction means division. So I'm just going to grab my calculator. I'm going to go 15 divided by tangent of 43. So let me grab my calculator. Again, I'm going to use the one that you guys have in Canvas. Every time I open it, it's on radians. Got to switch that. Make sure you guys are dealing with degrees. And I'm just going to go 15 divided by tangent of 43. I'm going to type in exactly what I had. 15 divided by tangent of 43 equals. It says 16.08, but I'm running to 1 decimal place. But I still take a look at the second decimal place. The 8 is big enough, so the 8 is going to push this 0 up. So 16.08, I'm going to call this 16.1. Let me come here. So 16.1. Now let's take a look at number 38. I have the hypotenuse, and based on the 57 degrees, 16 is the adjacent. So I have A and H. I remember the acronym CA, which stands for cosine of 57 is equal to 16 over x. If the x was on top, right, if it was x over 16, I would say multiply by 16, we're good, but it is not. The x is at the bottom, so I'm going to make this a fraction, and I have 1 over cosine of 57 is equal to x over 16. Now, I will multiply by 16 to get x by itself. On the left side, 16 times 1 is 16 over cosine of 57. So when I go to my calculator, I'm going to go 16 divided by cosine of 57. So let me graph my calculator here. Clear this out. So 16 divided by cosine of 57. 29.37. So I'm going to call that 29.4. Remember, nearest tenth means 1 decimal place. Looking at number 39. I don't have the hypotenuse, But based on the 22 degrees, x is the opposite, 14 is the adjacent. And I remember the acronym TOA, which means tangent of 22 is equal to x over 14. Nice, now x is on top, so that's gonna be easy. I'm gonna multiply both sides by 14. So that means that 14 times tangent of 22 is equal to x. Now let me grab my calculator. Fourteen times tangent of 22 equals 5.7. Notice I'm gonna round it to one decimal place. 5.7. 5.7. Looking at number 40, have the hypotenuse, and based on the 71 degrees, x is the opposite. And I remember the acronym SO, which stands for sine of 71 is equal to x over 11. Let me multiply both sides by 11. So I have that 11 times sine of 71 is equal to x. All right, let me grab my calculator. Eleven times sine of 71 is equal to 10.40. So I'm gonna call that 10.4. But sometimes I might ask you to solve for the angle. Let's take a look at number 41 through 44. So find the measure of the indicated angle to the nearest degree. I said read the instructions. So this one, I'm going to the nearest whole number. Okay. That angle, I don't know it, so let me call it x. I see I have the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So I remember the acronym CA, which means that cosine of x is equal to 10 over 14. Cosine of x, so I'm just going to break x, is equal to cosine inverse of 10 over 14. Right, I'm going to break that cosine of x. I'm going to break it as cosine inverse. All right, so let me bring my calculator. For cosine inverse, remember I had to press my second key. So I have cosine inverse 10 divided by 14 equals 44.4. But remember, I'm going to the nearest whole number. Nearest degree means whole number. So this case, I'm going to go to 44. Right, 44.4. I'm just going to call this 44. Take a look at number 42. I don't have the hypotenuse, right? The angle I don't know, I'm going to call it x. I don't have the hypotenuse. I know 98 is the opposite, 48 is the adjacent. When I remember the acronym TOA, which means that tangent of x equals 98 over 48. That means that x is equal to tangent inverse. Since I'm going to break tangent of x, I'm going to break it up. I'm going to use the inverse. So tan inverse of 98 over 48. All right, so I'm going to grab my calculator. So tan inverse, let me clear this out first. So tan inverse 98 divided by 48. Close parentheses. So 63.9. I'm going to the nearest whole number. 63.9, so that will be 64. Let me come back to my work here. My degree is 64 degrees. Looking number 43, my question mark, I'll replace it with an X. I don't know anything about the hypotenuse. I have my opposite and my adjacent. So I'm going to remember the acronym TOA, which means tangent of X is equal to 37 over 30. That means that X is equal to tan inverse of 37 over 30. Now let me grab my calculator here. Tan inverse of 37 over 30 says 50.9. So I'm going to call that 51. Lastly, let's see. My question mark, let me call this X. I have no information about the hypotenuse. I just know 31 is my opposite. 33 is my adjacent. I remember the acronym TOA. So I'm just going to say tangent of X is equal to 31 over 33. So it means X is equal to tangent inverse of 31 over 33. So I'm going to type in tangent inverse of 31 over 33. Grab my calculator here. Tangent inverse 31 over 33 says 43.2. So I'm going to the nearest whole number. So 43. Make sure you read the instructions. If it says round it to the nearest 10th, yeah, 1 decimal place. If it says nearest degree, it's a whole number. Make sure you guys read the instructions.